Nigerian organizations should start looking at getting their staff involved in this market or buying to keep for their staff.
Within this side, let's also learn citizen diplomacy. See something. This is Souq Business Landscape.
Good afternoon and welcome to Souq Business Landscape. I am Moyosore Adebiyi and it is great to have you join us again. Today we will be unpacking some critical developments shaping Nigeria's economic direction. From a 200 billion naira investment aimed at strengthening food security through modernized agriculture to a record-breaking surge in point-of-sale transactions driving Nigeria's cashless economy, but also raising new concerns about financial fraud. We will also examine the growing crisis at Nigeria's ports, where importers are losing over $500 million annually due to clogged terminals and rising costs. And on the global front, rising oil prices triggered by renewed tensions between the United States and Iran are already driving fuel prices higher across Nigeria. Stay with us as we break down what these stories mean for policy, business, leaders, and everyday Nigerians. We'll go on a short break, and when we return, we'll begin in earnest.
It's the mind that needs to first of all be rebranded.
Idris said he's going to be putting Nigerian labor, Nigeria content and materials first.
If you say Nigeria first and it is just us down here that, are pushing that agenda, it's going to be a big struggle.
Do you think Nigerian firms, Nigerian organizations should start looking at getting their staff involved in this market or buying to keep for their staff?
Within this side, let's also learn citizen diplomacy. See something. This is Souq Business Landscape.
Okay, welcome back to Souq Business Landscape. Once again, I am Moyosore Adebiyi. I'm not doing the show alone. As always, we have the usual suspects in the studio. Omobola Sandra is right here with me.
Good afternoon, Moyo. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
And also we have Mr. Oyinpreye Krumale in the studio.
Hello, Moyo. Good afternoon, Lagos. Good afternoon, Nigeria. It's good to be back here again.
And of course, our resident think tank, the one and only Dr. Osamhanze. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm honored to be here to watch the suspects. Tell their stories.
Let me tell you something. Stories will definitely be told. Let's get right into it. So our first story for today, the federal government has invested over 200 billion in agriculture to strengthen food production and secure national food supply. Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Apapa, disclosed that the ministry distributed free fertilizers worth 2.15 million to farmers nationwide, targeting improved yields across key crops. He noted significant progress in wheat research, with Nigeria now fully developing its own seeds, cultivating nearly 500 metric tons of wheat locally without relying on imports. Kyari explained that the government's focus on mechanized farming is designed to attract youth participation and modernize the sector. The successful Outgrower scheme is providing small-scale farmers with short-term financing between planting and harvest cycles. During a visit by the Gambian delegation, led by Agricultural Minister Dembal Sabali, Nigeria's rice cultivation and irrigation systems were praised as models for replication. Gambia, which imports over 80% of its rice, is seeking Nigeria's technical support to achieve self-sufficiency and ease the economic burden of high rice imports. Now, in all of this, one thing primarily stuck out to me. The goal of this is to promote mechanized farming and to bring the youths more on board as it comes to agriculture. So I'm going to start with Dr. Osamhanze. Please, my first point, of course, is how do we even make agriculture enticing for the youths in Nigeria? Because it's not just enough to say everybody go and plant their rice, go and do this. How do we make it enticing for the young people?
It was nice to hear the president himself use that phrase recently.
Make agriculture
and
sexy.
They said, want to make agriculture sexy.
Make agriculture sexy.
Whatever that means.
Appealing, I guess.
Yeah, make it appealing. And I think the statement was used by a younger doctor in Uganda some years ago, while they were having a WHO conference somewhere in Kenya. And she was saying that the way agriculture is portrayed in Africa, we use very old, cranky women and men to depict. And so that does not make it sexy, and younger people are not attracted to it. I guess that is what the president meant. But I'm a little bit worried about figures.
Yeah.
That if government say we spend 200 billion naira, for example, to health food program, it would just have been nice that we know where the location of these food programs are and what kind of food that is being produced.
Yeah.
That would make a lot of sense. I remember some 4 years ago, the government of Sharjah, an emirate in the United Arab Emirates, cultivated about 10,000 hectares of farmland to produce wheat inside the desert. And today, Sharjah is exporting wheat. I think those are the kind of initiatives that we want to see government do really. Or government partner with big farmers who are able to take large acre of land and at least make Nigeria sufficient in food production. And I think we have been on this curve for too long, where we say we are supporting farmers with fertilizers, and we really don't know where these farmers are anyway.
Yeah.
There's nothing to show us at the end of the year to see this was what the harvest that this support that we gave to this farmer brought to the table, and how this has translated into what we're doing. Yeah, some people may say, oh, well, we have started to earn more money from agricultural product, but I can also tell you, most of those products may not really be government initiative, they could be private individual, because a lot of people are also going into agriculture who are making money off it. How much of support that these people may get from the government is something that we cannot really determine. And I think if government decide to own a farm, to say, we need to produce maize, for example. Some 2 years ago, a friend of mine in Venezuela said to me he needed about 10 40-foot container load of maize. And I thought that, oh, my joy has finally arrived to get maize out of Nigeria and sent to Venezuela. And why are you trying to make clearance with customs? And I discovered that maize was a contraband item.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, because we cannot ship maize outside.
One of the 23.
Because we don't have.
So the maize we produce here is supposed to be for the Nigerian
Yes,
production.
so we can't even export because we are importing maize. So we can't export. Because a lot of people there at that time, people who were doing poultry were complaining that they don't have feed for the. This is a gap. We have uncultivated land. Can government just take 100,000 hectares of land and devote it to maize production? Put in the machine there, employ young people to do the farm using this new technology. And at the end of the day, we can actually see what is coming out from this farm. And we can really see that we are working toward food security. And I think for me, this is what the conversation should be for the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. Yeah, not throwing figure at our face, but we cannot actually point to sight where this figure seems to have been realizable.
Fair enough, fair enough. Omobola, I'm going to throw the same question to you. How do you think, in the words of the president, we can make agriculture sexy? You know, for the young, for the youths out there who are a bit on the fence about getting into agriculture.
Put the face of Omobola as the
new face of agriculture.
I don't think that's going to cut it, actually. I don't think that's going to cut it, because at this time now, agriculture is actually unsexy. You know, for a lot of people. First off is the fact that people are dying in the farms. So, you know, people are like, oh, what can I do? However, you know, if you're not in those areas that they're having security issues, what can I do? Is I think our parents, so, you know, before time, they've made agriculture look like a very, very tedious, you know, work that, you know, you have to put your back into it and all of that. And, well, let's face it, a lot of youths nowadays just want, you know, let's get this thing done. However, if we can actually take advantage of agro-tech, okay, you know, a lot of youngsters are looking for easier way out of certain things now, so they would prefer something that will make things easier for them, where I don't need to till the ground and, you know, hoe and everything. So I think if, you know, mechanized farming is introduced, agri-tech is introduced, maybe they would be interested in it. And then also, the youth nowadays need some sort of reorientation as well, as regards, you know, patience, and because farming is not something you don't grow today and then you expect to harvest, you know, the next day. So I think those are the factors that need to be put into consideration. Security in major farming places, and also agri-tech, you know, exploring the option of agri-tech, mechanized farming, and also, you know, the fact that there needs to be a reorientation. I think the national orientation, anyway, I think they have a lot to do in that aspect. It should, actually. I mean, agric was made compulsory for me in school. It was like one of those electives that you have to do it when you get to 200 level in the school I went to, you know, and the interesting part was you now had options. So you can either be an horticulturist, they look at flowers, tend to flowers, or you actually go to the farm and, you know, your progress is monitored and evaluated at the end of the semester. So if we can also, you know, incorporate it into education as well, secondary level, tertiary level as well, incorporate it into the education that back in the days, you know, people back in Dr.
Go ahead, say it.
They used to go to the farm, you know. I don't know if Doctor went to the farm.
I did.
Okay, well, they used to go to the farm. It was part of the curriculum, all right? It was not something that, you know, you did as punishment, like what they do now, where you go and cut grass. No, it was part of the curriculum that, okay, there's agricultural science. And then in agricultural science, there's a theory aspect and there's a practical aspect. So I just think that it's something that these are the things that can be done, you know, to make agriculture, quote and unquote, sexy again.
You know, I agree with that. I would like to ask you, Pri, 70% of the population, the rural areas in Nigeria, they gain gainful employment through agriculture. Do you think that part of the problem here is that we see agriculture from a subsistence point of view? It's not fully mechanized. It's not fully mechanized. So you think that that's part of the problem, why people don't want to get into it?
Okay, first of all, during those time when I think at that point in time, what we were chasing them was subsistence farming. Where households were responsible for feeding themselves. So at the corner of their houses or from the kind of life that they are exposed to, they plant what they are going to eat and they eat what they planted. So at that point in time, the intention of getting into agriculture was not solely for the purpose of selling, because that was even the time, Dr. Idahosa was speaking, that was even the time where trade by barter still existed deep down in the forest and in the villages. I think, if cares not, when I was 2-3, I met it. I stayed with my grandparents.
I don't think you met trade by barter. Because even me, I didn't make
just a moment, Doc. I met my grandparents who traded with starch. They go to the market with starch and they come back with
yes, that's a commercial agriculture.
Okay, fine. Okay, so what do you
mean by barter? Small scale.
Okay. So what is trade by barter? Trade by
barter was the fact that there wasn't a market so much that what people were doing was they were exchanging product for product.
That's okay. But this is also product for product.
No, it was product for money, really.
No, this is product for product. What I experienced, my grandmom was product for product. And that was deep in the Ogbijo village of Delta State.
Shout out to Delta.
Yes, I did, and I saw that because I stayed with her for a short period of time. So they were subsistent farmers. And I went to the farm a few times, but I escaped. I stopped going because it was quite tedious. It was quite very, very demanding. And I do not have the strength to do that. Staying in a village with my parents.
What does the government have to do for someone like you to say, you know what, I'm going to take up?
Fine. The mechanized farming. Mechanized farming where we don't need to, because those era, the kind of farming that it is quite laborious and it's very, very demanding. You don't expect anybody at this moment in time want to do. So subsistent farming, and if you are going to do subsistent farming, it will be capital intensive. And if private individuals cannot afford that money, is the government willing, or the Bank of Industry, probably the Bank of Agriculture, willing to put down a program in place where they can give out loans to verified farmers on a single-digit basis, so that they are able to use that money and refund back the money to the government. I think that will do. The one that Mr. Kyari was talking about, the reason is for food security. That is why when this administration came in, they changed the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development to the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, because they are trying to make food available. Because one of the things that has made food...
Plus the creation of the livestock...
yes, exactly. So one of it, climate change, is having its toll on agriculture. COVID-19 played its own role, and of course natural disaster, which is flooding, also had its way. So whilst they are trying to change these, it's good because the minister actually referenced 2023, where they imported, with regards to wheat, they imported some wheat seedlings from outside the country. And because they engaged in large production, they were able to sustain it. And in 2024, they didn't import because they were able to worked on the importation they did earlier in 2023, and at the same time they got some level of deals that help us to supply local markets with that. So I think if you can replicate that, not only in agriculture but in other aspects, so we'll be able to do good. However, one other thing I must point out is the outgrower scheme program. The outgrower scheme program is it's more like a contract farming, where you have farming companies. They are not specifically into agriculture, but they seem to play intermediate role between those who consume agricultural products and the farmers. So what they do is they make access to the market for smallholder farmers. Smallholder farmers, they seem to have these companies directly with them. They work directly with these companies and with these organizations. So they are able to train, and they are able to sometimes provide facilities for loans, and they are able to, make those the smallholder farmers to have access to the vast market, so they can ship their products down there. And I think that will prevent wastage, most especially when it comes to crops that can't stay long. Yes. So I think if we can capitalize on the outgrower scheme also.
I like that you brought up the schemes, because this is not like the first scheme we've had. We've had Operation Feed the Nation. We've had the agricultural revolution. We've also had the agricultural transportation.
There is nothing we have not heard. You see, every administration seems to be telling you the same story, but the food are not here. See, you can see things that are verified, but that's what I mentioned in Saja. The government partnered with an investor, cultivated about 1,500 hectares of desert land, turned it into green. First year, 6,000 tons of wheat was harvested. You have data and figures. Because it's not just throwing money at a problem. That's the issue here. You see, because a lot of people banded themselves into groups and cooperatives. And quote unquote become the spokespersons for certain crops and say, oh, we are a cooperative for corn farmers. And they don't even have a single farm for corn. We are cooperative for rice farm, and they don't have a rice farm. And then putting money in the hands of people who cannot solve agricultural problem. And I think the way to actually do this is that since land belongs to the state governments, federal government should cede agriculture to states. Let states take land and give them roles and assignment and say, look, this is Kebbi State. We know your land is good for rice. What we want you to do is that I want you to cultivate 1,000 hectares of land to plant rice.
But do we think the state government can actually handle that?
They can. You go to Borno State, they can do beans. Give them some money and say, look, Borno State government, we want sufficiency in beans production. Your land is good at producing beans. We want 1,500, 2,000 hectares of land. Plant beans. Let's Nigerians see food. You go to Adamawa State. You are good in onion. Plant this thing. Come to Benin State, Edo State, and say, okay, can do cassava. Do cassava. Then, of course, you put this money in the hands of the states and ensure that the state is monitored. And then, of course, you can have enough of cassava If you do maize in Niger State, you do rice in Kebbi State, do beans in Borno State, do what's it called?
So we just have regional,
of course,
agreements as regards.
Yeah. So that's not the problem. So we're actually looking at the problem in the face and say, what do we want? We want more food. And if we can't consume all of them, then we can start to export them. And of course, this will develop the trade around those places. The younger people who are leaving school will definitely be employed, and the economy will turn around. All this idea of shipping fertilizer to bourgeois and elite of society that really will not get to the hands of this thing, because what some of all these things do is that if you look at the way our party is developing, sometimes it's coming from your party and destroy it for the next election to say we are using this for campaign. This is my worry about this kind of use of fund by the central government. And I don't think central government should really be so much involved in agriculture. States at the maximum, but local governments could find crops that they can concentrate on and develop those crop areas, and then Nigeria will be food sovereign.
That's one of the major issues with this, funding issue, because a lot of things are politicized. You see situations where things that are supposed to go to the people, and then, things come out during election and you see them sharing it. Things that are supposed to be, palliatives, are supposed to be support for the people. And then it's election year and then somebody brings it out and is sharing them like, oh, I'm doing good. And then there's also the corruption factor that is a major problem for us in this country as regards that. And then aside from that, just some weeks ago, we had a conversation as regards the fact that Niger State government and Dangote were going into some sort of collaboration as regards, rice farming. So I think even if, because we have some states that, when it comes to initiatives and when it comes to, their IGR, they may not be able to afford to go into that large-scale, venture. So you could look at one or two individuals or businesses in your state and work with them and see how, there can be that PPP can work for your state. If you are saying that, oh, just because this state can afford to go on such a venture, I may not be able to afford it. Well, you can take a cue from Niger State. Went into a collaboration with Dangote, and they're working on something. So I think it's something that, the states...
Who remember the untold project? Who remember the untold project?
Nobody can never forget the untold project. Our money is still in their hands. They use it to buy tickets for somebody, and, there's still the question hanging over that.
Even all the people that are doing shadow government and the rest of it, they all had untold fund. We never really see fund. We never see product come out.
Okay, so this is not good. I want to ask you, Priya, as we've said.
So we don't know whether they have paper.
As we said,
I think government really need to give us data, because these are the issues. The elite who has never been to the local place to farm before. Once funds come out, they become at the forefront of this. So we have big names who were part and parcel of Anchor Borrowers program, past leaders, emerging leaders who want to be state leaders. All of them took those facilities. Up to today, nobody is even telling us what is recovered.
We know where Apapa borrows money.
I know. Let's not get into that.
No, we should go there because it is important.
But obviously, we know that all the programs have been tried.
Yeah, but because
there have been limited success on every single program.
The biggest predictor of what is going to happen
is what
happened in the past.
That's right.
So this is the thing that we're looking at. That this is not still going to be an elite shoe. People have not known farm before, and all of a sudden take interest in farm. And then, of course, these fertilizers are shipped to them, and we don't even know where farm is. And I think you can do a call to your village and ask how many people receive fertilizer and support from government. You will be shocked that you won't find anybody. So this is the issue. So if government is going to make money available for agri program, even if it's supporting small farm holders, can we really know where these farms are and see what impact in terms of measuring performance of this spending, that is it generating results, or are we just throwing the money away? So for me, it's important.
Because of time, so we can wrap this up, Priya. What do you think is the major problem that all these programs have limited success in the long run?
Okay, first of all, political will is involved, and for political will, one thing I'm going to say about political will is government should not pretend. Whether you belong to the same political party, you came from the same village, or you belong to you were born by, you have the same father and different mother, your cousin. No, government should not pretend.
Yeah.
Government should not pretend as if it doesn't know who stole the money that belongs to a specific agricultural program.
Yeah.
Because even if a government is it's on the saddle, and that money has been stolen by whoever was appointed.
Yeah.
There are records. The EFCC and the previous administration and the way that money was administered are so vividly written down on record. So if another government comes in and he sees the record, it has the right to send the EFCC and all to go after them for the purpose of getting the money. If you do not do that, if the government who has been saddled with the responsibility, given all the powers of state, the police, the army, the navy, the air force, and the person who is sitting on the saddle has been given the name that is Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that commands all the ministries, departments, and agencies and is responsible for appointing who sits on those places. And if people have stolen that money and you get into that place, you cannot order the EFCC to go after those people because you felt they are party members. Yeah. If you touch them, you must have been touching. You are touching your party, then you are part of the problem. Yeah. So the government, political will is number one thing. We must look at that. But the other thing is I want to look at, I don't really think we are doing very badly. Though I can say we are doing below 50%, which is not supposed to be because we have everything to make us do 70% at least. But we're not doing very badly. This is our worst state when it comes to agriculture compared to what we used to have previously. At least that's what I heard most experts say who are very, very conversant with happenings in that industry. So if this is where we are, apart from insecurity and the corruption that we just spoke about, and we are still performing worse the way we are, why is the Gambia coming to study
to replicate
to replicate what we currently have now? And that destination was to Kebbi State to see what we are doing, and they felt that our model that we have in Kebbi State is worth copying because they want to go and replicate it in their state. Currently, as we speak, the Gambia imports about 90% of the agricultural produce, maybe rice, into their country. 90%, and they felt where to come and study the model that has been laid down that could help them to overcome that challenge is Nigeria and domicile there in Kebbi State. Can we replicate that also? She mentioned about Niger State.
You mentioned Niger State. Really?
Yes.
Because
my point is that we are not really doing that.
To be involved, because the issue here is money.
I think government should be allowed to involve. We should not restrict. We should not restrict state government.
My view is state doing well. Take for example the current Minister for Budget and National Planning as the governor of Kebbi State did excellently well in terms of rice plantation, and that's why you remember last Friday we were talking about the lake rice here. When Lagos State has to partner, because there are two very big processing farms in Kebbi State. Yeah. They're doing very well, and they were supplying lake rice to Lagos State, Lagos Kebbi rice, because the state involved in it. Yeah, that's the point I'm making. But I don't think that this should be the tough, really, where the federal government should be playing. That states should be empowered to do more. We have, for example, the farmer governor in Niger State. The young man is doing excellently well. In short, even when the president visited the state, he has to commend him. He has imported a lot of tractor to ensure that there's peace in Niger State and people are producing. So if you actually allocate states like this and monitor it via state, but give them specific products to specialize on, which of course can become an export earner for Nigeria, for me it would be a better way to go than the federal government involved in fertilizer distribution. That for me, doesn't make sense.
Thank you. I know we all want to say something, but we have to go on a break and move on with the show. I would say this, though, it's not really about the model. I think it's primarily about the implementation. So those who are in authority, I think we should take up what the doc just said. Each state, what they're comparatively advantageous at, let's have them do that. We'll go on a short break. This is still Souq Business Landscape. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back.
Because it's the mind that needs to first of all be rebranded.
Idris said is going to be putting Nigerian labor, Nigeria content and materials first.
If you say Nigeria first and it is just us down here that, are pushing that agenda, it's going to be a big struggle.
Do you think Nigerian firms, Nigerian organizations should start looking at getting their staff involved in this market or buying to keep for their staff?
Within this side, let's also learn citizen diplomacy. See something. This is Souq Business Landscape.
Okay, welcome back to Souq Business Landscape. Now we move on to finance as point of sales transaction grows to 223 million naira. I beg your pardon, yes. Point of sale terminals process transactions worth 223 trillion 270 billion naira in 2024, nearly doubling from 110 trillion 350 billion naira recorded in 2023. According to data from the Central Bank of Nigeria, the volume of POS transactions rose by 32.7% year-on-year to 13,080 million, while automated teller machine transactions remained flat at 1,022 million monthly, as the monthly data showed steady increases throughout the year, with December peaking at 31 trillion 840 billion naira in POS transactions. However, the surge in POS usage have raised concerns over rising fraud cases, which jumped by 31.12% in the first quarter of 2024. In response, the Central Bank of Nigeria introduced stricter regulations, capping individual daily POS cash outs at 100,000 naira and mandating strict reporting by agents. These measures aim to strengthen the cashless policy while safeguarding customers against growing financial crimes. All right, so the pros of the POS transactions is that it's really pushing the cashless policy. But they also say, as many people can attest to, that people are struggling with the fraudulent aspects and how this opens room for fraud. Omobola, how do you think we can tackle this issue when it comes to the fraud aspect?
Regulatory, I think the CBN just needs to do more as regards regulations on, what the fintechs are actually doing now. The fintechs are actually trying. Some of these virtual banks, because now you have some of these apps already having facial recognition and thumb, exactly, thumbprint, biometrics. They're bringing in biometrics into doing transactions on your phone. But then I think orientation as well for a lot of people, because now financial inclusion is stretching even further into the rural areas. These are people that have not been exposed to smartphones and all of that. Now they're being exposed to smartphones, and you need to understand that you don't just share your PIN with anybody. You don't just share your certain details with anyone. So I think orientation would also actually go a long way. All right, and then regulation as well, and also I just feel like the banks also need to do more as regards cyber security, tighten your walls as well. It shouldn't be so easy for people. I know that brain drain is really affecting the banking sector, the IT in the banking. The brain drain is really affecting them. But I think they should do more. They should invest more, in the IT and to curtail cyber security.
One of the things that struck me is that they said when it comes to the ATM, it stayed flat. So people are not withdrawing more via ATMs. Do you think this is a good thing? Do we think this is a good thing?
Well, I don't think so, because you see, there's a law. The law says this is how much you can withdraw. And of course, the banks are keeping it, because if you don't keep that rule, you will be fined by CBN. That's a problem. So the bank can maintain that order. But of course, nobody has control over the POS.
You can withdraw as much as you want.
We cannot. We don't have control over them. And you find what has happened.
The POS also has caps.
Yes, they have caps. Yeah. But the problem here is that one person have multiple POSs, not just one. So how are we going to regulate? You have one from First Bank, one from GT Bank, one. So in one shop like this, you have as many as possible. So if I do 100, it works. Now, secondly...
No. That's for the business person. For me, that wants to do transaction, I can't use one bank on all the POS. So.
It depends on the limit.
The POS transaction, the limit is 150,000
for you
on POS. No, on POS from the CBN on POS. That's the regulation.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Now,
Except I have multiple accounts.
Now, this is what is happening. POS are not even taking cash from the banks.
Where are they getting
it from?
They are buying cash.
Anyway.
If you just want to study this, go to the motor parks and you see them, they are present. As the conductors are taking the cash, the POS is taking it. So the money really don't come into circulation. Go to filling stations, see this happen. And so wherever there is huge cash transactions, POS are there to buy the money. So it does not really come in through the banks. So they have ways of sourcing their own cash.
But there's trouble. They can't withdraw a certain amount over the counter.
So this is the issue. So how do you block that? And of course, you see, again, culturally, some people are not even too cool with sending money to commercial bank because they feel that it may work, not work in tandem with their religion, thereabout. So these are issues, cultural issues that we still face. That's actually empowering these operators. So we have no money outside of what the CBN can actually control. So where they have control, yes, it can be stable. But with the POS, I don't think there's so much control.
Can I share something personal? Hold on. Let me even share something personal. I've noticed lately that you could go to a bank and try to use the ATMs, and almost like 70% of the time, their ATMs have no cash in it. To what end is this, and why is there a deliberate attempt to push withdrawals to the POS?
There's a conspiracy theory on that actually, some of these people, because some of the banks allegedly, the POS guys it's easier for the POS guys to collect cash in the bank. That's the theory now, and because of that, so they want people to go to the POS. I think it's even cheaper actually on
is
the
it
POS.
for us?
POS, no, POS for the consumer. POS is actually cheaper. The POS for 5,000 is 100. But if you it's
per transaction is
107.
Per transaction.
It's 107.
But what if it's what if it's an issue where I want to use the ATM? I think as a customer, I should have the right to be able to say I want to use your ATM machines because you charge me monthly for this in your maintenance charges and all of that. Why should I go there and there's no money inside? Because one thing I do know is that the banks are saving a lot of money by not putting money in this.
So why do we need to use cash for everything, though? That's the essence of cashless policy. We're trying to reduce the amount of cash in circulation, and if it's just that the way our business, our SME. Let me put it that way. The way our SME, structure is, I want to buy yam from, the guy that is selling yam in the wheelbarrow. He doesn't have a POS. He doesn't have a POS. And due to, fake alerts now, people are not very, very comfortable with you doing transfer, except they only trust certain fintechs, which I can't mention the name. They only trust, okay, if you're transferring from this account, it's solid, it's sure that, the money is coming in. So even at that, you see, you go and buy something of 200 naira, you go and buy something of 300 naira, you go and buy something of 500 naira, you want to transfer. So I just feel like, I don't think that, the business environment, that down there, the small business guys are, fully, ready, or if that sector has been fully prepared for cashless.
For cashless.
Okay,
what are your thoughts on
transactions?
Okay, so first of all, I think the CBN in 2013 tried to, how did they try? They opened up the space for banking agents and for POS machines to come into the space because they are trying to, establish financial inclusion and cashless policy. They wanted to, to come into the space. However, one of the consequences that was unintended by the creation of this system was that the POS operators now created an informal economy for themselves, where they have to, one, buy cash from people, like Doc has said. They buy cash from businesses that most of the time accept physical cash when they carry out businesses, and that include transporters and those who sell by the roadside, including filling stations. The other thing is these POS operators, they equally go to ATMs and they withdraw, they carry out multiple withdrawals from the ATM using different ATM cards that are registered with their business names. It could be different business names. So they do that. And so when the regular customer who, like you, go to some of these ATMs and want to withdraw money, they're telling you you can't use it because there is no cash. There is no cash.
Because somebody has withdrawn over 100,000 already.
Yes, I've already done that. so there is no cash. And the other thing is, when this happens, somehow it's not that the POS machines are cheaper. I think it has to do with your area. There are some areas you go, the 5,000 naira, you are paying 200 naira to withdraw it from a POS machine. Yes. There are some areas you go, you can pay 100 naira. There are some areas you go, you want to withdraw 6,000 naira, they are charging you 150 naira.
That means that's because there's no regulation.
No, well, I don't even expect who is going to regulate them. Is it the bank that will tell them that, look, don't charge more than 100 naira?
But that should be a conversation.
No, I don't think the banks can do that. I don't even think.
But should it be a conversation?
I think that should be a conversation.
It should be a conversation, but the banks can do that. But I don't think
it's market-driven. Sorry,
yes, please.
It's market-driven. If you take, for example, Broad Street, you see as many POS as you want to see.
Yeah.
So if you decide to say you are going to charge, somebody is looking for which is cheaper. And I think that's what really is. So there's also competition in it, depending on the area you are talking about.
Thank you.
If you have multiple POSs, you will discover that they are also struggling to capture their own daily sales.
Yeah.
So I don't think the pricing will have to be the same all across the board. Because I see some places where I took 10,000 and they took 300 naira for 10,000.
It was supposed to be 200
naira.
But how do we know what it's supposed to be?
Now, what I'm saying is that you look at areas, is maybe in that area, you know, where they say in the city of the blind, only one man is the king. Yeah. So it's the only person in the whole of the street, and everybody seems to be relying. Then it's cashing out. But if you have 3 or 4, 5 POS that are competing, of course, the price itself naturally are moderated.
Doctor, they have association.
Yes.
So,
the POS Operators
Association of Nigeria, they have association, and they can have meetings in that street. No, doctor, you live in the eyebrow area, so they shouldn't be charging you 200 naira for withdrawing 10,000 naira. I think they were even lenient when they were charging you 300 naira.
I think you should pay what everybody's paying.
But they felt that, okay, they need to charge him more because they must have looked at him. So they do that. And sometimes you go to a vast market, like maybe like Oshodi, or you go to a garage somewhere in
the markets, in those central business districts, the prices, just because they know that you are desperate because you want to buy something.
And the extra 100 naira might be nothing to you when you really think about it.
But the thing is, it is even more expensive. Sometimes it's more expensive, but the thing is proximity.
Yes.
Proximity is one of them. Now, when when it's not during the weekdays, on Sundays, it's like the POS system has replaced the conventional banking system that does not work on Sundays and Saturdays. So even when the cash is in the ATMs, they are the ones that go to the ATMs to fetch the cash, hold it, and wait for you and doctor to come so they can sell it to you. So these guys, they've created an economy for themselves that even the CBN did not envisage when they were bringing out this cashless policy, the POS machine to be segregated.
I think when the Naira redesign era,
my goodness, that was the worst era in my life.
It revealed a lot about these POS operators and their relationship with banks. It revealed a lot. People were struggling to have access to cash. But you see POS people, they have cash. Where are people getting this cash
Banks.
from? And then there was also the story as regards the fact that some of these, bankers, they own some of these POS joints.
Yes.
And so they hoard, the cash and they don't make it of it. So I think that, I don't know if regulation can really work for POS people. I don't know if it's necessary.
I think beyond the POS itself, cash sale has been in operation in Nigeria.
When you go to party, they
No,
but that's different.
When you go to party,
It's the
it's the same thing.
No, it's very, because
You're
going to
buying
party,
cash
no.
at parties.
The cash you are buying is to spray. Those are negligible things.
Really?
That's not something that...
The law will get you arrested for doing that.
You should be arrested.
No, I'm not saying that. Okay. I'm agreeing with you. What I'm saying is that should not even be
No.
a topic.
What I'm saying
No,
is
he's saying that
what
for
the
the time
point I'm
in
making is
people have been buying
we have been buying cash in this.
But not for meaningful things. I'm talking about meaningful things.
No.
Let's
It's
use that money.
meaningful.
What's meaningful tomorrow?
Because they are using the money to spray other people. That's none of my...
It's very meaningful. If it's not going to be
It should
meaningful
be
to them,
stopped.
they
In
will
fact, that should even be stopped totally. I don't think about that.
The point-
I'm telling you, like, there was a time during the scarcity where I couldn't get money anywhere. And the woman was looking at me, and the woman said I should give her 2,000 naira to remove 5,000 naira. I was like, what sort of...
Yes, it was that bad.
That would not have happened if there was regulation on that.
You see,
if the POS was had certification.
It's not about the POS. That's the point that
It's
Omobola
about
just
it
made.
partly.
Now, what Omobola said is that COVID era and, of course, the Naira redesign, you see that a lot of collaboration were happening. Even when the CBN did some raid, some bank officers were actually arrested.
Yeah.
Because whether you like it or not, the money that CBN brings to the bank on a regular basis is either they sell it to those party people, or they go to these people. That's why you can't go to a bank and get a new notes.
Get mints. You're looking for mints.
And of course, you know what that costs government to print.
But the party people have mints.
That's
That's what I'm saying to you, that the trade on currency has been there. And so it's just a new diversification in that sales.
But should the POS operators, should they be regulated?
Yeah, but the question is that these things, are they done officially? These are the issues. Because some of these things
when there is no order or no structure, people will be indisciplined. So I think if you spell out, the regulations and what you can and cannot do, I think it will be easier to implement and follow through.
But I'm wondering, how are you going to regulate the POS operators who are getting cash from informal channels? How are you going to regulate this? You don't have a hold on them. They are as free as the air. You can't hold them. Yes, because... Yeah.
We probably have a POS in
No.
Yes, but there's even a security dimension to it as we're speaking right now.
Yeah.
And here, Kedanutik, I say bring the money somewhere. They're not taking the money to the bank. How are they dispensing those money?
People are withdrawing this.
No. They say, okay, a kidnapper takes a captive and is asking the parent to bring cash.
Yes. It's not a POS operator that collected 10 million from a kidnapper.
By 25 POS operators can collect that.
So the question is, where
25 POS operators can divide 10 million naira.
Where is this cash actually going to? Because if they are going through the
it is going to the banks. It is going to the banks. It is going to those houses in Ikoyi where they always see money.
All right, thank you. On that bombshell, we'll wind up on this topic. But please, I want to hear your thoughts. Please leave your thoughts in the comment section and follow us on Souq TV News on all social media platforms. We'll go to a short break and we'll be right back. It's still Souq Business Landscape.
Think like that because it's the mind that needs to first of all be rebranded.
It said he's going to be putting Nigerian labor, Nigeria content and materials first.
If you say Nigeria first and it is just us down here that are pushing that agenda, it's going to be a big struggle.
Do you think Nigerian firms, Nigerian organizations should start looking at getting their staff involved in this market or buying to keep for their staff?
Within this side, let's also learn citizen diplomacy. See something. This is Souq Business Landscape.
Tafawa Balewa Square, TBS. Tafawa Balewa Square was initially used as a horsing ground called Lagos Race Course. The edifice was constructed by General Yakubu Gowon in 1972 and named after Nigeria's first Prime Minister, Sir Tafawa Balewa. Tafawa Balewa Square is located at 45/57 Marse Bangboshe Street on Lagos Island, Lagos, and referred to as TBS. TBS is a 50,000-seater capacity venue and houses the Remembrance Arcade, the 26-story Independence House, which at a time was the country's tallest building. When Lagos served as the country's seat of government, the National Assembly Complex was within the TBS. Also in the square are the National Broadcasting Commission Office, the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency Office, shopping centers, travel agencies, restaurants, car parking lots, and a bus terminal. Tafawa Balewa Square is adorned with beautiful statues of white horses and red eagles, symbols of strength and dignity. Our historic neighbors include the King's College and the Holy Cross Cathedral. Tafawa Balewa Square hosted some of the country's memorable events, such as the Independence Day in 1960, when Nigeria gained independence from Britain, the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, which is celebrated annually on January 15. The edifice is a national cultural asset. Tafawa Balewa Square, Souq Enlightenment.
Take Nigeria because it's the mind that needs to first of all be rebranded.
Idris said he's going to be putting Nigerian labor, Nigeria content and materials first.
If you say Nigeria first and it is just us down here that, are pushing that agenda, it's going to be a big struggle.
Do you think Nigerian firms, Nigerian organizations should start looking at getting their staff involved in this market or buying to keep for their staff?
Within this side, let's also learn citizen diplomacy. See something. This is Souq Business Landscape.
Welcome back to Souq Business Landscape right here on Souq News TV. We've been having a lot of conversations. Right now, we're moving to importation news. Nigerian importers are losing over $500 million annually due to inconsistent exchange rates and importation challenges linked to over 100,000 empty containers littering the country's ports, according to the Sea Empowerment and Research Center. The head of research at the center, Mr. Eugene Nweke, revealed that freighting empty containers back to origin ports costs between $2,000 and $6,000 depending on size and route, while congestion and demurrage fees reach up to 60,000 naira per container monthly. Nweke warned that about 45% of these containers are rickety, posing health and environmental hazards. He urged the government to invest in port infrastructure, encourage exports, and introduce a demurrage tax on long-abandoned containers. SEREC has officially proposed to the Minister of Marine and Blue Economy the creation of the National Container Return System to address the growing crisis. Doc, my question to you is, how did we get to this point where people are leaving empty containers all over the port and nobody did anything about it till this point?
Well, I think the challenge is because of the skew nature of our trade. You see, you go to some places, you bring in goods, and you take goods away. So here you bring in goods, there's not so much to take away. And nobody is willing to pay that money to carry an empty container back to its country of origin. So that discouragement is what it is. So it's not incentivized. Imagine that we have huge export market. Some of these containers will not be lying low here. So if I bring in something from China, for example, and I put it on the ground here, now I'm supposed to be returning the container back to China. And it's empty. And I'm to pay between $2,000 to $6,000, depending on what distance. I don't think that's sustainable.
$2,000.
Yes.
$6,000.
Is this the same pricing all over the world or just a Nigerian port?
No, but it's not Nigerian policy. It's pricing for the logistics company. So if they want to take your empty container, the vessel owner is not going to see whether there's something inside or not something inside. All that is carrying load back.
No, but I think aside from whether or not you are carrying out or whether or not, even the one that you brought in, the rigorous process of even clearing everything, you have just a lot of bureaucracy in customs process. You have that. Then you also have this multiple taxation. Thank you very much. Multiple taxation issue as well. You're charged for this, you're charged for that, you're charged for this, you're charged for that. You also have, the logistics issues as well. And then there's
demurrage,
the demurrage fees. Let's talk about all of that. So that is an issue, yes, acknowledged. But I think even like the operation itself of our ports is something that definitely also needs to be looked into.
Yeah, but I think the key issue is what worries people. And it's not just here in London, really. And I remember, it was about 4 years ago or 3 years ago, immediately after the COVID, the President of America, Joe Biden, was actually crying. And he was saying that about a few companies in Europe that actually control the container market are making so much money that they ever made for over 100 years. Those businesses were set up because they were taking advantage of the crisis that COVID presented. So they were determining where the container will go and where it will not go. So that is itself the issue. And I think that's what the Sea Association is talking about.
The Sea Empowerment and Research Center.
Yeah, it's talking about. So we're seeing that containers are littering, because if you can look from this building, you can see them virtually everywhere. Some of them are really not good. Some of them are looking abandoned. And maybe they are saying government can begin to collect money from it. Maybe it will become an incentive for the owners to take them away, because somebody actually owns these containers.
Yeah, but these things are also, kind of discouraging. But the truth of the matter is, doing business in Nigerian ports is one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive, actually, if we're going to look at it, break everything down. It's actually, and it's not easy doing business. So when you think about the rigors of bringing in stuff, the rigors of taking out stuff, you think about all of those things. And let's also not forget, at the end of the day, this will still come back to the consumer.
Yeah,
because
the
we have
cost
to,
of it.
yes, because we have to give this guy back his money, or the money he has expended on ensuring that the goods come in, the goods are safe, and then how long it stays with the customs are getting it out. And then, Doctor, we also have some very interesting characters on his way from the port, to his warehouse. There are also some interesting characters that would also, collect.
But it is the container itself that are empty that are my major issue here.
Yeah.
So
no, but the fact is that we're losing money, and it's not just...
Hold on. I can see you're writing a lot there.
No,
I can see you're really screaming a lot. So I want to hear what you're thinking, especially on the national container return system. What is your position on it, and what do you think should be the government's position on it as well?
Okay, first of all, I think the government should make it as a way of law. If you are bringing in goods into the country, from when you export, I don't know how they do it. If we receive a circular, like maybe the memo that or XYZ shipping company is the loads or the containers coming with it. This one is carrying Ankara. This one is carrying XYZ. And it's coming into Nigeria. Before then, you must have expressed your intention of returning that container back to your country, back from source.
Full.
Yeah? No, empty.
Empty.
Yes, after you have, because if not, if the date for which you are to ship back that container back to your country is not well specified in that memo or in that circular, there should be an amount of money you should pay. That you're paying straight from the source. As you are bringing it, it's all part of the money that you are paying for bringing it into the country. So if you're not going to do that, if no date is specifically, then that money is forfeited, and it's forfeited to the government of the country that is receiving that package. I think that would do a good deal. Number one. Number two, private businesses are responsible for establishing container terminals in different countries. Now, in Nigeria, Ijora, when you are going to Apapa port, there's one specific road when you get to Ijora, both on the right and on the left side. Ijora there itself, that straight bridge that links to Apapa, then you have another one diverting to Ajegunle. That's been at the bottom of that bridge, at your right hand side, there is a very large container terminal, very, very large. And I think if not maybe a year or two back, there was this resuscitation they brought to the face of that terminal because a private entity had moved into that place. If they're not going to pay and they're shipping goods down here,
you should be taken to those places because they are going to be free containers for those logistics companies who are then going to embark on selling those containers to those who have goods in Nigeria and they want to export out of the country. I think if regulation is not couched within those two systems, then our country is just going to be a dumping ground for containers.
Yeah, but I think that is the point that these guys have made, that governments can now begin to surcharge them. That if this container arrive and they are not taking it back, just as we are charging demurrage for the one that is having goods, government should start charging demurrage.
Doctor, they will not pay. You charge them from the source.
This is all the matter. How about this, doctor? Rather than charging them, why not, if your container exceeds a certain number of days or a certain number of months, then they take possession of it.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think that is the point. So you have to first of all make it something legal.
And there should be documentation.
And write a policy around this.
Yes.
And I think that's what they are suggesting.
And
that government can start to earn money. Because what the owner of the container actually doing is that they don't want to carry empty containers back, and they are waiting for opportunity to use it to ship goods
back to their country.
Back to their country.
Nigeria at this time now, we are looking at exporting. We have a lot that we're going to be giving out, so we need the containers.
Yeah, but that's what we're saying. So what they're doing, they're actually waiting for those exports. And while they are waiting for those exports, the researchers are saying they are littering the whole place with containers. Some of them that are not even useful, that they can even afford to live. That what government should do...
Recycling.
Yeah, yes, before recycling, the law has to be there to say that we can take possession of it if it stays for too long.
Yes.
But in the immediate, let them also be paying demurrage to the Nigerian government.
They will not pay.
They don't need it
But they will not pay. Because they don't need it. What do they stand to lose?
What are they going to do? What do they lose for empty containers?
One thing is for sure here, right? The port authorities are very inefficient so far. In fact, in the current port ranking, we're at 183 out of 185.
I'm one of the most expensive.
Do we think privatization should
around 2,000?
Yes.
No, a 20-feet container was only selling for like 20,000 a year. For the one that is totally bad, that they want to carry out, that people are using for shop outside, was selling up to 60,000. So you can imagine what that costs today. So it's not small money because they're not
how much is it in dollars? How much is 60,000 naira in dollars?
I'm talking about in the 2000. So but what I'm saying, yes, now, if they are not abandoned.
If they are not picked up,
they are not abandoned. No. The owners are waiting to.
How do you know?
That's what I'm saying to you.
You don't know.
I do. The owners are waiting for somebody who will hire these containers and to ship something outside. So the containers belong to somebody.
If people's pensions, we have ways and means, if people's pensions stay in a certain time, okay, let's quickly borrow it and quickly do business and we'll return it back.
No, we cannot use it. No. No, understand this thing. Somebody invest, is like you say, a lorry is carrying goods from Kano, bag of rice. Yeah. So he come to Lagos to offload. So what's he doing? Is he going to drive back empty? No. He said, let me see what I can carry from Lagos back to the north.
I don't know. I don't know.
No. This is what it is. So if I have a container, the ship owner and the container owner, they are two different people. Yeah. So the owner of the container is looking for, he doesn't want to spend money to carry this container back home so that he can ship back to the container.
Irrespective of what they are waiting for to export, okay? Irrespective of whatever it is, there should be a circular. If your container spends a certain number of days, we are going to take possession of it.
I think
what these guys are saying is that government should make it mandatory for the container owners. If they are not willing to carry it back,
they should be
paid. For every single day you spend in Nigeria, they should be paid.
I think this argument, so to speak, or conversation is basically two sides of the same coin. Obviously, they can't just leave it here without.
That is the point. They should not just leave it and abandon it to leave it.
What I think a bit extreme, but I think they should take both suggestions. Charge them monthly.
Charge them, and if it takes too long,
they take on
Just as well.
So you can't just say you leave it one day and then you start to take it. All right, on that note, we'll go to show break.
But no privatization.
No privatization. All right, on that note, we'll go to show break. When we come back, we'll talk more about the energy sector. Don't go anywhere. Souq Business Landscape.
Because it's the mind that needs to first of all be rebranded.
It said he's going to be putting Nigerian labor, Nigeria content and materials first.
If you say Nigeria first and it is just us down here that, are pushing that agenda, it's going to be a big struggle.
Do you think Nigerian firms, Nigerian organizations should start looking at getting their staff involved in this market or buying to keep for their staff?
Within this side, let's also learn citizen diplomacy. See something. This is Souq Business Landscape.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Souq Business Landscape. We're in the final lap of the show. To the last story of the day. Global oil prices are climbing sharply after coordinated United States and Israeli airstrikes destroyed key Iranian nuclear sites. Brent crude surged to nearly $78 per barrel, while Nigeria's Bonny Light, Brass River, and Kwa Iboe crude grades reached $79. Yes. Iran's parliament threatened to shut the Strait of Hormuz, a critical channel for 1/5 of global oil exports, fueling market fears of supply disruption. In Nigeria, energy marketers warned that rising crude prices and unstable foreign exchange rates could push petrol prices to 1,000 naira per litre. Private depots have already raised loading prices, with Dangote Refinery adjusting ex-staple rates from 825 naira to 880 naira. Independent marketers report pump prices between 925 and 960 naira nationwide, with northern regions nearing 1,000 naira. I can hear people laughing already. What's the major concern now?
It's always the downstream that bears the brunt of all of this. It seems glamorous and all, like, we're actually heading towards, the ambition of our 2025 budget and all of that, but at the end of the day, the common man is going through it.
Some people say this might boost Dangote's relevance regionally, and people
not
want to
just
source
Dangote,
more.
even Nigeria as well.
Beyond Dangote's relevance, and I think the real core issue is the fact that this is the beauty of the free market economy. And so as simple prices are getting higher, and of course the prices of products, services also will of course have to go up. And if we are not doing very well, I've actually been an advocate of using CPI to actually determine wages for workers. So once these inflation things are happening and prices of goods are going up, the consumer price index should be the determinant that people naturally should be able to move from where they are to where they should be in order to be able to meet up with the market demand. So here, what we're seeing is the fact that the Houthi group, the Yemeni rebels, the Syrians, so because you see these prosy allies of Iran definitely are going to be doing harm in the waterways, and that's going to create a lot of logistic challenge. And of course, if these are not flowing, of course, the prices of the crude will go up. And if you remember the last quarter document that was released by NBS, that crude became the third highest imported item to Nigeria. So which means we are importing more crude now, more than several items. It's ranking number 3 in that list. So which means we are now going to also buy very expensive crude. So if you're buying expensive crude, which means we are finding the cost or the landed cost of the petroleum product is also going to go higher. So this is why war is not good. This is why peace is the only thing that can make the world really go round.
I mean, from a layman's perspective, how did we even get here that we're importing so much crude when we basically have so much in our reserves and people are buying from here?
We have in our reserves.
how did we get to this point?
Are we producing enough to even have
We don't have reserve.
We don't have reserve.
Oh my goodness.
Are we producing enough?
I thought we had the largest oil reserve.
It has not been extracted. It's still down on the floor. So it's the crude that has been explored that you'll be talking about reserve. It's U.S. that can talk about reserve, but we don't have reserve. We don't have reserve
because we've not extracted it yet.
Yes, we have not extracted. It's still down.
So now, obviously, the cost of this will be pushed onto the customer. So how do we cushion this? I mean, subsidy aside, what can the government do to even cushion this burden? Or are we just going to leave it all to market forces as always?
Produce oil. Let's fight oil theft. Let's fight vandalism. Let's fight all of that. Last year, they, in a very grand manner, the GC or GMD or a lot of names of NNPCL came forward and declared war on oil theft. And we're going to push for this. While working on currently on 1.1 million barrels, we're going to push for 2 million, or we're looking at 2.06 and all of that. Just produce more. We have it. Why? It's just very unfortunate. Doctor is talking about the fact that that is a painful truth. We are still importing crude, even though we're an oil-producing country. And as he said, there's still a lot under there. Why can't we just work on producing more? It's as simple as that. Let's pay attention to that. Let's produce more. And, locally, we're good, we're fine. And then to the point that, neighboring countries will now start looking to us, where you don't need to go as far as going to the West. All these neighboring countries can't come to us, and we have it available. We're supposed to be balling.
Yeah, we should. We should be, we should be turnt here in Nigeria.
Millennial word that we
I said turnt, that's it.
They were supposed to be, swimming in, except of course for the, forex issue and all of that, except for that. But normally, Nigeria is supposed to be, at this time, just like, okay, so sorry about what's going on to you guys over there, but we're cool.
Yeah, we have the capacity
unfortunately,
to help our region. Do you think there's a silver lining here that maybe it's going to push for faster reforms, because we now know that there's room for us to actually satisfy many other people because of the crisis that this has created?
Okay, first of all, I think the government and the National Assembly that pegged our crude $75 per barrel in regards to the 2025 budget should be smiling now. However, the man on the street will not smile. Because 1,000 naira?
That's
1,000 naira per liter for crude, for oil? The thing is, why is it that whilst the government is gaining, the people are suffering? So when the people are going to start, smiling and happy, the government is losing. So the thing is, why is the government there? It's there on behalf of the people. So it's good for the people to smile, and that smile would be that indirectly government put the smile on their face, even if the government might suffer.
Let the government smile.
In other words, what is justice in this case could be that the government should frown, because if the government frown, yes, because the people will smile. Now, because I'm asking, crude per barrel now is going to be how much? $80 per barrel? $80 per barrel. When it was 69, or when it was below $70, so we're getting some form of reprieve. Now it's going up there. The government is saying, okay, I'm going to meet my revenue target and all of that, and funding the budget and all of that. But yes, you're funding the budget, but the people are tightening their belt. How does that help the people? Because I'm trying to put that together for it to make sense. It does not make sense to me. So what I think should be done is the crude that the government within Nigeria gives to private marketers, to other refineries domiciled in the country, should be sold at a particular price, most especially with the modular refineries we have here, should be sold at a specific price that will bring some form of reprieve to Nigerians, so that we can be smiling perpetually and not depend on when the crude skyrockets in the international market, then it becomes a disaster for the country.
30 seconds. I know you want to say something.
The point is simple. The market forces driving change here. What is the issue we'll have is that we want peace in the Middle East. We want the Suez Canal to be free.
We can't determine that.
We want to not be dependent on global dynamics. We don't want to be dependent on global dynamics because we have it. But why is it? What is happening over there? It can't affect us, but it shouldn't affect us so bad.
Whether you like it, because you are a signatory to a protocol.
Yes.
As a student of international affairs, you should know that
gold
is an international commodity, and therefore whatever price we are going to sell is going to be determined by the international factors. So don't take that away.
But you have to understand what I'm trying to say.
The point I'm making is that before these 9 days of the strike in Iran, between Iran and Israel, prices were getting better.
Yes.
But this crisis is troubling the whole issue. Just as the way COVID triggered prices, and then of course the Hamas-Israel war joined and escalated it. This is where this is also driving us. Peace in Israel, peace in Iran. And I think those people who are holding on to power perpetually should relinquish it and think about the people so that the world that is a global village can expand.
Thank God.
But we have our issues here.
If anything,
public discontent.
Yes.
Yeah, so let's also take care of our own people before we start praying for
Thank you so much.
people that are
Thank you, Doc. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of Souq Business Landscape. I am Moyosore Adebiyi. It has been a fun, riveting show as always. I'm signing out, but I think we all should do as well. Omobi?
It's amazing, and I don't know, but it's okay. Anyways,
itching to say something about that.
My name is Omobola Sandra. Omobola Sandra on all social platforms. Thank you.
Idahosa is my name. The price for prosperity is peace, and the world must pay it.
That's right.
Okay.
Mr. Priye.
Oyinpreye Krumale, it's been a wonderful moment speaking with you.
That needs to first of all be rebranded.
Said is going to be putting Nigerian labor, Nigeria content and materials first.
If you say Nigeria first and it is just us down here that are pushing that agenda, it's going to be a big struggle.
Do you think Nigerian firms, Nigerian organizations should start looking at getting their staff involved in this market or buying to keep for their staff?
Within this side, let's also learn citizen diplomacy. See something. This is Souq Business Landscape.